4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Bow, bow, bow. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 143 of the Magic Guys. Oh, look at that. Doug is in the Halloween Christmas spirit.
Look, I'm in the spirit, man. I'm actually in the Christmas spirit, but I'm faking it for Halloween tonight.
Hell yeah. And over here, we got Nick K.
Welcome to the show, friends.
What's up, Nick?
Welcome. Guys, we're back. Thank you, everyone, for bearing with us while we didn't have an episode last week. I was just busy burying some bodies in my backyard, and it really took a long time. And so now we're done with that, ready for Halloween. We're back.
Josh has been so dark today. Y'all don't even know. He's in dark Josh mode. It should be an interesting chat this evening, morning,
absolutely,
wherever you're at.
Yeah. No, but I think why is because I've moved house, and that's 5 days of moving, I think, brings out the darkness in anyone, I think.
Oh,
and
moving's the worst.
This is going to be set up properly, but if you're watching this on YouTube, this is my new studio. All I've done right now is been able to set up my lights, put 2 little lights on packing boxes back there. I'm hotspotting from my phone. This is a real wild episode. And yeah, thanks to everyone who sent in the well wishes for my fiance, for my partner, Sandy. She had this crazy tear duct eye infection that just like stopped the world. Like the surgeon said that pain, because a tear duct is only meant to have, half a drop of water in it, and you had the size of a pea in there, it's equivalent to a woman dilating to have birth, like that pain. So wow. I wouldn't wish that upon
dark Josh.
anybody.
Holy cow.
I know. But we're back, and I feel a bit more normal now. So that's my TED Talk. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
I'm still doing these things for the record.
Oh, good.
Celebrating the darkness.
Yeah, for those of you listening to this, you got to make it a habit to watch it on YouTube, because Doug's window is a non-stop disco of
out of control party happening over here.
Balloons and fireworks and all manner of excitement. But
party time. Yeah.
Speaking of excitable things like fireworks and anything else, I think it's probably a good opportunity to talk about not only fireworks, but good old-fashioned fire, which would probably lead us to our kick-ass visitor this week.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell everyone, Josh.
So Neal is like, in Queensland, he's the sought-after guy for fire artistry, fire entertainment, the flow of fire. And we've been able to come across each other at many corporate events over here. And he now has his own company, Energy Entertainments. And like last week when we couldn't do this episode, he's like, oh, thank God, because I have 20 events I have to organize this week. So I'm happy to, move one thing to the next week. This guy's in demand. We're going to have a scorching conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Neal Webb.
What an intro.
Here he is. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Neal Webb.
And the crowd go wild.
Oh, yes.
That was a
Neal.
strong intro, man. We've been upping our intro game around here.
I know. Now we're personalizing the sound. So that's when you're hitting big time.
So Neal, we know very little about yourself other than your kick-ass with fire. So please tell the audience, who are you? What do you do? Because I have questions. So please, let's start with who the hell are you, buddy?
Who the hell am I? I'm still trying to work that out myself. But what I tell everybody is I am a professional martial artist and fire artist that specializes in fire. I just love fire.
Yes. And he has both his eyebrows.
Oh, yeah, they do. They singed. Is your favorite Mortal Kombat character Scorpio because he's a fire character?
It's got to be, really, isn't it?
That's a nod. That's a nod, everyone, for everyone listening.
Yeah. And then Street Fighter, it's got to be Yoga. Yoga Flame.
Yoga Flame. It's really fascinating because fire is one of the things that we're taught our whole lives to not mess with, especially as children. Like when we used to camp as kids, you know, you put a little stick in the fire and you sort of like flail it about. My dad used to tell us, if you do that, you'll piss the bed. And that's how we used to get the kids to stop playing. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there as a curious kid, like kind of like, where's the science in this? You play with fire, you piss the bed? Like, I was trying to understand the logic in that. But erroneous of my childhood piss talks. How did you go how did you go with playing with fire as like where did this like proclivity come from? Or you were just like, I like fire, I'm about it.
Yeah, so after we stopped making other people pee the bed by putting their fingertips in water while they slept, we started setting fire to things all around the city. We were quite a troublesome kids, and in England there wasn't much to do in the 80s, so we would cause trouble really. So
a little bit of light arson, never hurt anybody.
Yeah, just a light arson. I wasn't the worst arsonist in our group.
Look, I'm flashbacking to when I was like 14. I remember this moment. I had a football helmet on my head. I had my friend's skirt squirt lighter fluid on it, and then lit it on fire, and I rode my bike down the street with my head on fire, because that was a good idea when I was 14.
That's some Twisted Metal action there, like the clown from Twisted Metal. That's nuts.
And that's why Doug is bald.
I had dreams of being a stuntman when I was that age. You know, I really thought that was my calling. That was before I found magic books. You know, like I was doing magic tricks, but I haven't read magic books yet. And anyway,
there you go.
You're lucky I didn't get in the fire game, or you might not be sitting where you're at, Neal. I'm just saying. I would have owned the fire game.
Well, that's what's interesting about like what goes through that as well, because like we got into magic by reading books. So that's like how you go. Now, you are so knowledgeable with fire. Where do you even find resources in something like this?
Yeah, correct. It's a really untouched subject. It really is. And what I've been trying to do for the last 20 years, is try and take fire to a new mainstream. Just try and work out where fire comes from. So that's where the documentary series Heart of Fire is. I'm trying to find the origin of it and why people believe it's magic, because they do every time they see it. Every tribe I visited, they're like, it's magic. And you're like, wow, it is. It really is. So there are no sources. There's a lot of people in the world that do play with fire, and we do communicate quite a lot. If there's something new on the scene, we will reach out to each other, much the same as magic, and say, how do you do that? You know, and we do online workshops for people. I do in-person workshops. So
is there any printed resource that you recommend? I'm a fan of the books, you know. So is there anything you could suggest to someone who would want to read about it, or like at all? No. I've heard that this knowledge is best served or transferred from person to person. You know, that's the best way to learn these fire things.
Exactly. Just passed on like storytelling, like, you know, ancient tribes have done for many years.
And you have all your hair, so whatever you did, it's working well for you.
Yeah, I had an afro at one point. That didn't go well.
Well, it's a good business. There's a good business opportunity there for like lecture notes or a book. You could title it at Burns When I Pee. And
nice. That's
wow.
Moving on. So yeah. P and me. So the real strength for Neal coming on, because obviously a lot of our viewers are magicians, and I think Neal goes through a lot of the similar things that we do, like coming up with shows, coming up with new effects and booking gigs, and so it's very much a similar like lifestyle to us, just much cooler, and also like we use fire in. What do you think when you see magicians use fire, like in their work? Are you like such an amateur, like when you see them handle it?
Because it's extremely dangerous, isn't it? It is. No matter what happens, yes. And if you're using flash paper or small fire, things can still go wrong. But there's a joy of it. Like there's not one person in the world, whether like we do shows for nursing homes, we do shows for kindergarten kids, and the whole spectrum. They love fire. So to add fire into a magic show, I think is vital. Why not? It's because it's such a spectacle. You just got to be safe.
How many restrictions do you face with fire? Because, we are such a nanny state, in Australia for the best part. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've done events where it's like no flash paper, no candles, nothing. It's like, well, okay, cool. I mean, like, you smile and grin, but then you think, does it affect you guys that much? Or do you have a sort of protocol that you go through? It's like, actually, we can because we have all of these certificates or these so forth. Like, how is it handled?
Exactly. So we've got risk assessment. So we'll create a risk assessment before every show. We've got all the MSDS forms that we need to supply. It's really weird. Like a golf course will say, no, there's no way you can spin fire on our 10 acres of clear land. But then another hotel will say, yes, that's fine. Just jump on the table in the Versace and just go nuts on the table. So it's, there's a balance, and it's always between people. It's always what they want. So whoever's higher in the show, you can try and convince them as much as possible that it's safe, especially when there was a huge fire ban. I had to get written consent from the fire brigade just to say that there is a fire ban, but I am not creating a fire. It's a contained fire that's on a stick. No embers are emitted. They can't flow away. So it is safe as long as I'm on a concrete platform.
Yeah, and that's important. The safety of fire is probably just as much important as the actual like fire tricks that you learn. Speaking of which, like what you had mentioned, there's a variety of like different tricks with fire that you like to utilize. What do you want to tell the viewers some of that stuff that you like to play with?
Some of the stuff I like to play with, eh? So the recent toy that I've been playing with is rope dart. It stems back from Kung Fu. So it's an old chain with a steel point on the end. But obviously we set them on fire rather than trying to take people's heads off in battle like the Chinese used to do. So we set them on fire.
That does sound like Mortal Kombat, doesn't it, Nick?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we did a Mortal Kombat show for the cosplay weekend at Dreamworld not so long ago.
Tell us about that. That sounds amazing. Was it fire and ice type of battle, or like, tell us?
Yes. So I was actually Sub-Zero. So I thought it'd be quite a spin that I would be dancing with fire and then fire and ice. The logo of my company is the yin and yang, fire and water. So I try and incorporate the two as much as I can. So it was pretty cool. We've got a martial arts show, which is full battle mode. Like we've got swords that shoot out fire. We've got full combat sword fighting. We've got nunchucks on fire. We've got rope dart on fire. We've got dragons on fire. We've got sticks on fire. We've got everything. So we were creating a martial arts show battle with two characters from Mortal Kombat.
That's amazing. So you sorry, Josh. You say martial arts. That's a very broad spectrum. What martial arts are we talking about specifically? Are we talking karate, taekwondo, like judo? Like what martial arts exactly?
So me personally, I studied Kung Fu from the age of 19. And with Kung Fu, I studied Tai Chi. So it's an internal and external martial art. The guy that I perform with is Bryce. He's a karate black belt, but now he's gone into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but he's just really good at all different weapons as well. So we just incorporate the weapons that we know and the forms that we've learned over our lifetime and set them on fire and then do battle.
It sounds like magicians could, do a linking rings, but on fire. If that's the case, like you take the props you're used to, set them on fire. Surely that makes sense.
I had some friends do a cup and ball routine where the balls are on fire. And it was performed on basically like a very large type barbecue, and they used tongs for doing everything. They had gloves and tongs to do all their loads and stuff. Like it was pretty gnarly.
Huh.
Yeah.
I can see that happening. Or rope magic. I've a long piece of rope, a medium piece of rope, a small piece of rope, all on fire.
So you could use Kevlar. So you can get Kevlar rope. The Kevlar's from bulletproof vests that the police wear. So Kevlar rope could be set on fire 1,000 times. It won't burn out. It will take a very long time to burn through. So you can get all different size Kevlar ropes as well. So you can add fire into those situations with any kind of rope tricks.
You know, you're so knowledgeable with everything you know about fire. I'm curious, have you ever had to consult for TV, movie, or any other actors with regards to your skill set in this realm of fire?
Not really. They more invite me onto the set to either to perform fire. I have been on a few different music videos where I've just been there present, but I always seem to end up doing something. It's not like it's just consultancy. I guess maybe when my body gives up and I can't dance and fight anymore, then I'll maybe go down that avenue.
And now Neal, he also has made like some reveals with fire, and one in particular is like the strongest kind of reveal you can. And I imagine you make these yourself. People can hire Neal to propose to their partners and have a fire marry me, like kind of. Do you want to kind of explain that? Because it's not just there. It's like you kind of made this thing that you light on fire and then it reveals.
Yeah, you need to, because my comedy brain was like, marry me or burn. Like, it's not.
Well, if she says no, you can just throw her in the fire. So.
That's true. Till death do us part. Well, it could be sooner than you think.
No, so
have you? No one will. Enjoy the barbecue, friends.
So we got exactly this one here. So a couple, or not the couple. So the guy phoned me up and said, "I've seen this happen somewhere else. It's a sign that's completely flat, and then there's a giant heart on the floor, and then you light the sign up, and it opens up like this, and it says marry me." So I thought, and then we do a big finale of sparks behind it, and it took me a couple of days to work that one out because I had to make all the framing, I had to make all the poles and get fishing wire, and the fishing wire doesn't burn because I tried that a couple of times and the sign just hit the floor. So yeah, it was people really love the fire in proposals for some reason. It's like the start of a flame, and you can be as corny as you want with all this, but people actually do love the fire part of it.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
You should offer your services to every CEO, because I think that Scotty P had a great idea where you can actually fire your staff in a very elaborate way.
That'd be a great idea, wouldn't it?
Patricia in accounts, you've come to work late every day for the past 9 months.
Yeah, as Scotty P just commented, he's put "you're fired." Yeah, just like that. Good work, Scotty P.
Yeah. Yeah, now we have some footage on the screen right now for those listening on the pod, and is that you performing right now in this bit here, or is this part of your crew?
I'm just catching the staff on the left there. Yeah, that's Bryce breathing fire out of his mouth.
Yeah,
wow, that was crazy.
That was an impressive fire breathe, man. I've seen a few guys do that. That was he's still going at it.
Yeah, he's definitely up there as one of the best, I'd say.
Yeah, wow. Spinning around.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
For people just listening, he's basically like a dragon. Like he's not just doing a fire breathe. He's actually starting
3, 4.
Yeah,
it's an almost 5-second fire breathe. Like
it's like when you see a dragon breathe fire for like 10 seconds. It's him like moving around, and the flame is still bursting out of his mouth.
Yeah. Don't try that at home, kids.
Cool.
That's a good brand of Listerine. That is. Minty fresh.
Yeah.
This is probably the most dangerous trick we do.
With the whip?
No, with the fire breathing. So there are so many things that could go wrong with fire breathing. Like, I must say, please get some like professional training before you actually try it. Like, you can get chemical pneumonia pretty easily from inhaling the fumes. You can inhale the fire, which then burns your throat and lungs. Also, you can burn your face if you're not using the right substances. So, yeah, it can go wrong pretty quickly.
What about if you have a beard? Is that a no-no if you got a beard? Like,
it's not a no-no if you can do it. Great. Like you're keeping the flame slightly away from your mouth, and if the fuel that you're spraying, you got to create a mist. When you're creating that mist and it stays away from your beard, then you're completely fine.
Neal, I'm curious if Dallas Saupe is on your radar at all. The Nick and Dallas show. Do you know Dallas?
No.
He's a fire performer in the United States. He's a busker and he does fairs and festival shows. And he has a beard and does fire breathing and such, eating in the show. So, yeah, you can do it, right? Outside, like doing it while street performing makes it more challenging with the wind and the elements, right? Blowing the fire.
For sure. And it's definitely been challenging over here at the minute, Doug. It's like 50-kilometer winds. So it's,
that's got to be your kryptonite, right? The wind. Is that the worst thing for you?
Yeah. It's the hardest thing to manage. You've got to imagine you're trying to perform to people in front of you. And if you've got wind going sideways, you can't stand there with flames. So you have to turn your gaze and turn your actions so you're off center from the crowd. You've got to bow down to the power of the fire and not the audience.
Yep.
In what conditions would you be like, we are not performing today? Too bad. Like, is there any situation where you're like, this just cannot happen? Like, is it like, for example, a low ceiling, or it's an outdoor gig or anything of that nature? Like, like, thanks for inviting me on your property, sir, in the middle of, Wagga Wagga. But if I perform here and then something happens, then your whole property goes up. Is there anything like that where you're like, nope, not doing it?
Not really. We're kind of, we risk manage everything as much as we can. I definitely get to gigs earlier than the other performers would like to, but that's just because I can risk assess every situation that's going on. I think within the 20 years, I've probably said no to about 2 shows the whole time.
Of rain? Because
I was really
like
bummed
rain.
both times. No, let me just bring up, one of the times when I met Neal was this crazy Cirque du Soleil themed corporate event where it was a tent, like a circus tent outdoors, and it was pouring with rain, and they insisted on still having this event. And you would think that rain would stop fire, but Neal was like in his element. He was 12, like it actually, Neal can talk about it more, but like the effects of rain with fire, but because it's kerosene or whatever, it doesn't go out. So it actually looks really cool in the rain when you're spinning and you've got the rain like lighting up a little bit. Tell us about that, Neal.
It was pretty insane, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was in probably 100 mil of water. It was torrential, like torrential rain, and everybody's undercover. And that's the main thing. As long as the audience are undercover and they're happy to see a show, we will do it in anything. Like I feel that we've practiced enough and we're skilled enough to be able to do it anyway. But I thought it was awesome. I like to have that much torrential rain and to kick the water up. And as I'm spinning, I'm kicking the water up. You just reminded me, Josh, I need to make a video of that.
Hell yeah. You can do like the Step Up movie scene when they're dancing in the water, but with the fire. That'll look cool.
Exactly.
Well, Timmy's asking if you have a fire safety guy on standby for all your shows. Is there someone just dedicated for that?
It kind of depends on the client and the space. So if it's a larger show with not just me, if there are people that are slightly inexperienced or not as experienced as myself or Bryce, then we will get a fire warden in, and we'll just charge extra for that fire warden. They're in charge of making sure nothing else happens, no sparks, when you've lit something up and it's really hot and then you light another prop, there's a chance of it jacking across, and then things just ignite all of a sudden just for no reason. So you got to be careful.
I was thinking how much more complex it must get when you got 4 people up there spinning fire. One guy's breathing, they're tossing the fire from person to, that's a lot going on there.
Yeah, and we have fire signs and hearts, and there's sparks and pyrotechnics, and there's a lot going on. But it's same as anything, risk management, practice. You can master anything, can you? So
where do you rehearse this kind of thing? Do you have a space, or you go to a park, or what do you do?
We go to a park. We go to various parks on different occasions. The reason for that is
you wear out your welcome pretty quick.
No,
how do you do it?
We meet new people at every new park, so we have the opportunity to share what we're doing, and then they'll come to the next show. And the more times we move around, the more people we meet. So that's kind of my concept for moving around.
And I'm guessing when you're practicing, you're not always having to light the sticks on fire and the stuff.
No.
So you can
No,
just practice like martial arts.
Yeah, new show, we normally practice, 10 times, go through the show constantly, and then we start doing it with fire because it's a totally different element when you light it up.
And you mentioned, now with fire, you would think that fire is the most eye-catching thing ever. Like with magic, we talk about you need an opener to get the audience's attention, keep their attention. There's certain environments where, we'll lose the audience, like if they're eating at an event or whatever. You would think fire would be like the easiest way to, have people watching constantly. But you did mention that you have sort of come up with ways to deal with unresponsive crowds and stuff so they don't mess with the energy of the show. What's your experience from a fire artist dealing with these kind of crowds?
Yeah, it obviously depends on the crowd and how intimate you can be with these people. I'm quite forward, as we all are, because we like playing and like performing. That's what we do. But I'm more than happy to walk up to a table and with some fire in my hand and make sure and just welcome everybody and say, hey, how are you? Or there's a show happening. Would you like to see something in that space? So you forget about everybody else around them, and whoever's not watching, go into that space, capture their attention, do something like fiery in front of them or trace some fire, and then say the rest of the show's on the stage, and then I'll walk back, but I'll make it part of the show. That makes sense.
That's interesting. And what if a crowd's just like, just like the worst crowd where like the whole audience is just like at Eat Streets, for example, I imagine like they're definitely watching, but there's also a lot of noise pollution going on with people calling out orders for their food and, what do you kind of do? Do you just go in your zone and just like enjoy yourself, or what do you do?
I'm kind of enjoying myself anyway. Eat Street is a really good one because what I've been trying to do at Eat Street is interact with the crowd more, a lot more. Interact, get with them, like in between every set, talk to them, engage with them. A lot of performers just do their thing up on stage and they don't want to interact. You've got to capture the imagination of the audience, haven't you? And by getting them to move and clap and do stuff, they're getting blood moving around their body. They're more focused on what you're doing. You've just got to inspire them to move and get creative with your show.
Yeah, I always have this notion of demanding the applause when and as soon as they start, like they get it. And a lot of times, like even if I'm doing tables and so forth, like I'll do my trick and I'll just go, and the crowd goes mild. What was that?
Okay.
What was that? What was that? Yeah. And then I'll do the second phase of my trick, and then they'll just go like I'll do something, and I'll just go jaw drop, and I'll go, I'll do it my damn self, and I'll just start clapping myself. I'm like, I'll do it myself. You guys suck at this. I'll do it myself. And so there's ways you can demand applause and get people through that step of dropping their defenses, or someone with their crossed arms like this. They're watching your show. It's like, I'm not going to steal your nipples. Relax. I'm here to clap. There's someone with their hands in their pockets. Hey, if you're going to clap, don't do it with your hands in your pockets. You're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah, could go wrong.
All these ways.
There's so many different comments and things to say, isn't there? But definitely holding that space is really important. Just giving yourself that time for them to applause. Just wait, and they'll get it eventually. But people just get caught up in what's going on. Like I did a couple of conferences last year. I was in Noosa, and we were just about to start the show. We turned the music on, and nobody turned around. Like nobody. So the music's going, and nobody's. They said to me they hadn't seen each other for 3 years because of a random pandemic that happened, and they just weren't interested. They were just too busy talking. So I turned the music off, and I walked around to every single table and said, hey, how you doing? I said, I know you haven't seen each other for a long time. We're just about to do a show. We've traveled 2.5 hours to get here. It's a really good show, I promise you. We've put so much time and effort into this. I would really appreciate it if you could come and watch. And I did this 20 times around the tables. We had an amazing crowd. Everybody loved it, and it was happy. And I think
what an interesting approach.
Personal. You just got to be personal, haven't you? Like,
I want to I wanted to say something to your point, because a lot of times there's mainly two types of performing we'll do at a corporate event. It'll either be a mixture of roving, going from table to table, and or being on stage, doing a stage portion, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it might be. And a lot of times people will go, we want you to do your stage show and then rove. But I will always lean into going, we should do the rove first, because they have an opportunity to like break the ice with people, and they'll go, do some more. And I go like, oh, okay, no, just a little bit for now, but I'll be doing a stage portion later. So make sure you're involved. And I always find that my stage show goes 20 times better when I rove first.
So important.
Important. Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Because nobody doesn't want to watch. Everybody wants to see a magic show. Everybody wants to see a fire show. They're just lost in what they're doing. So take it, be personal.
Yeah, the idiots.
Well, that probably makes for a good opportunity to jump into some good gig stories. What do you think, Josh?
I think let's do it.
Gig Stories is a segment of the show where we like to talk about moments in magic, either while performing or just in our day-to-day lives, and we sort of run amok and share our little magic stories. I'll start this week. I'm not going to share any fire and magic stories. I did tell one story some while ago about setting a lady's hair on fire. So that's old news. But I was performing recently, and I mentioned this just before the show with the guys on the pod. But I was just kind of staggered because we're reviewing a product this week, which is fantastic. It's the Ladybug trick by Duskull, and it's so good. Like, it's so good. And I've been doing it in my residencies, especially for kids. And what I love about them is that the cards are plastic, and I'm very thankful for that, because you can wipe the cards down, which you need to do because kids are gross, man. Kids are gross. This kid was like, I want to pick a card. And I said, cool deal. Hold out your finger. And this kid held out his finger, and on the tip of his finger was a booger that was it was so big, man. It was so big. Like, this snot, like if this snot was on somebody's ring, you'd be like, damn, sick engagement ring. Look at that rock. This thing was huge.
Oh, man.
Like, staggeringly big. And he went to touch, and I pulled him back, and I was like, and I was like, that one, cool. And I dropped that one card on the table and picked it up. You know what I mean? Like,
at least you can find it.
Yeah, but I was just like, it's just
that's like it's like wax now. You can use that as a method.
You know, it'd be funny.
Maybe that's a method. Put it on.
What I should have done in hindsight, what I should have done is pick a card by touching the back, and then done card on ceiling. Perfect.
Or what about this? Is this too far, guys? What if so it was on his finger, right? Like on the pad of his finger?
No, it was like the very tip of his finger, and like just underneath it was this rock. It was enormous.
So like just like here, right? Like where the fingerprint is, kind of thing.
It was like it was
between
like
the nail and the fingerprint.
Yeah. It was like the very.
So how about, imagine this? Forget double cross, okay? You see it, you go, okay, put your hand in a fist, and they go like this, and you're like, watch this. Did you feel the magic? Open your hand, and then they're like,
my booger goes to your hand.
Talk about organic magic. That is
double snot. That's our new product.
Oh yes,
double snot.
Double snot.
You can pre-order it now from pipermagic.com.au and use discount code.
Oh my god!
If you know the X on the hand or the dot of the ash or anything, you could do it.
That's right.
All right, Scotty P, it's time to go back to work.
That's right, man. Oh man, that's got to happen. That is hilarious. Okay, so sorry, you were going back. So that was your story. So you had the booger. You found a way around that.
Yeah, it was just it's just one of the things you got to sort of keep in mind, that people can be gross. Sometimes it happens on a hot day, man. You'll be performing, and I've gone into venues or corporates or whatever, like whatever the gig is. I'm like, it smells like phys ed in here. Like, it just happens. Okay, we're all human. We all stink. I don't. I have so many fancy soaps and deodorants.
Nick is covered in a layer of chemicals at all times.
You don't even know, dude. I'm literally the most toxic man on earth. Like, I'm just, like the amount of effort that goes into all this before a show. I'm powdering and I'm moisturizing and tonering and Even my deodorant, man. My deodorant's like $9 a stick. I get the fancy one from Dr.
You go translucent like Josh does too? You do that thing with that stuff?
I have a
translucency.
I do have a powder. Yes, I do.
Classic.
The spunk
I have
powder.
some-
What?
All
I
right,
have
we'll bring
some-
it back to geek stories.
Okay, that's
So-
stories.
I wrote down a couple of things because it's been like 2 weeks since we've done one, so done an episode. So we did another week of the Theatre of Magic, which I'm just loving more and more. Which Neal, I'll have to invite you to at some point. This intimate theatre, 40 seats to a room, and we do this show. And I got to do the close-up magic set the last time, not last week, the week before, and man, we're just having so much bloody fun. People are writing comments like, this is kind of like the Magic Castle, but in Brisbane. Like, we're getting really good feedback of this show. It's just great. And we're adding and tweaking little bits to it. It's becoming more and more magical every time. This weekend's already sold out, I think, or there's like one more ticket left or something, and it's
Well
Tuesday. So it's pretty awesome. So that's coming up. And because of that, I got to go on national TV and do this magic set on Studio 10, this like local morning show here in Australia.
But you can see the clips on your social media, and I've been loving the clips you've been posting from these events
man.
and
Well
the
done.
news. So if y'all don't watch Josh, I don't know why, but go watch it there, right?
Yeah.
Why thank you, Doug. And
man.
my
Give me the rub when I can.
Yeah, man. So it was so it's live TV for those listening, and I flew down like the morning of. So I was on like a 5 a.m. flight to get there to go live at, I think, 11 or 10 a.m. their time or something like that. And the whole time, everyone's pretty casual about it. I can see the studio. The studio is so much smaller than it is in real life. They do a really good job of framing each section of the room to look like its own studio, but it's really everything crammed in one place. And so I'm watching everything and I'm like thinking about what magic I'll do, because I didn't know for sure, like if I'll be sitting on the couch with the host or if I'll be standing up at a table or if we'll just be freestanding, because we'd requested what we wanted, but we didn't like know for sure. So I'm like, I've got all these different options of magic, and I'm like, let me just try. My idea going into it was, let me try and cram in as much magic as I can in this segment, so it's not like, let me show you one piece of magic. I wanted it to feel like just stuff would keep happening, and there'd be no dead time. My real goal was to have no dead time in this segment, which I think I achieved, because every time someone's signing a card, I'm like solving a Rubik's Cube, or when they're shuffling, I'm like mind reading someone else, something else is happening. I used a bit of fire in it quickly as well. And not everything went to plan. Like, for example, like I did one mind read of this host, and the person that he thought of, the name was like, I couldn't, I knew how to say it, but I didn't know how to like write it, because I thought I would write it down on a piece of paper, hold it to the camera and have him say it, and then reveal that I got it right. But I actually didn't know how to write it. So I just had to say it instead. So like things kept changing. Anyway, you guys can see that on YouTube, but that was, I can't remember the last time I had that much pressure on me to.
That's a lot to
nail
get
a
up and
live-
get to the airport at 5 a.m., to do a news spot. The anxiety level on that situation is pretty peak level, right? And what, you're up at 3 a.m. to get on this flight, or what? What time you got to get out of bed?
Basically, yeah. All while knowing, like, because I'm not just representing myself, I'm representing the whole Theatre of Magic, so the other two guys as well, and everything. So that was good. And the very last thing I'll mention is I did an event on the weekend in Noosa, which I think you just talked about before, Neal. So in Noosa, it's a beautiful venue by the water and stuff, and I get to this event at like 6 o'clock at night. On the run sheet, it says that they started this event at midday, so they've been eating and drinking for 6 hours before I've got there. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, this should be fun. I get there. I go to use the outside bathroom on the outside of the venue before I start. There's already two ladies arguing like they're on The Real Housewives of Orange County. Like, F you for not believing in me, and you shouldn't listen to Rachel, and like this close to each other, fully arguing, but not punching on. And I'm like, okay. I just go to the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom, and someone knocks on the door, and they're like, hurry up! Like, I'm like, oh my god. So I open the door. I'm like, are you okay? Like, are you fine? He's like, oh yeah, can I go in? I'm like, of course you can. And I'm like, great. I'm going to see this guy inside. Like, this is going to be awesome. So I'm just ready for hell, right? I'm ready for 2 hours of hell. I'm like, let's go. Like, I can do this. But to my surprise, I go in, the very first group I perform for, the guy tips me $100, like in the first 3 minutes of being in there. And I realized, this is quite a wealthy group of people. And I was like, okay, those drunk people are probably all outside still arguing, and all the good people are probably inside. And the event ended up being great. Yeah, I got paid. Tipped $100. Thank you, my friend. I feel bad about stealing his watch. But at the end of the day, yeah, I assumed it was going to be just like crazy, and it ended up not being so bad. Although I will say, the MC, when you go to an event, the MC should be like your best friend, right? Because you're all performing, right?
Yeah.
Nick's shaking his head, so maybe you also have encountered crappy MCs. But this MC, normally they'd be on their best behavior. Like if you're showing them magic, for example, I go to show this guy magic, put the cards in his hands with this other guy, and I like make a joke where I'm like, okay, now all we have to do is wait 1 hour. And I say that, and he goes, 1 hour? Oh, and he like throws his hands away and like lets the cards fall on the ground. The MC. Anyway, he's dead. Yeah, he's dead. But that's my gig stories. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Neal, I'm sure you got an abundance of gig stories, but is there anything that comes to mind, whether it be a good or a bad or a downright creepy, with the theme of obviously being Halloween? What comes to mind, buddy?
Well, as Josh mentioned, there were 20 shows happening on the weekend. There are actually 26 performances happening. Not just myself. I performed 9 of them. I was in the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary. What a really interesting space. They put me on the Aboriginal cultural storytelling stage, which is a sand area, which I thought was interesting because obviously dancing on sand is so much harder than dancing on a stage.
Oof, yeah.
So when I actually got there, I felt like I had to give myself some presence to that land. There had been Aboriginal stories told on that land for I don't know how many years, decades. So I don't know if I was the first person to ever dance with fire on that space. So I had to put myself in that space and just give an acknowledgement and say thank you to the elders past and present. And then I started thinking to myself, do I have to do this vocally? And then I got into this argument with myself. Well, no, because I'm respecting the land for myself. But then do I say it to the audience? Because then someone might get upset that I haven't said it. And then I'm going like this in my head, like back and forth. And I'm thinking, no, you don't have to say anything. You just, as long as you're present with that space, then just be present. So I said my words and I started dancing. 9 shows, extremely windy conditions, raining. There was a lot of rain. So it was wet, it was windy, I was on sand, and I was using 2 new pieces of equipment that I've never used before because my other ones had broken that morning, the sticks.
Oh my.
So there was a few challenges on the weekends. I don't burn myself. I never burn myself. But as you can see here, I've got burns there.
Oh, no.
Oh, my.
It's been years since I burned myself. I've set myself on fire a few times, but
now can you speak on how that happens? What are you using to get a burn or on your shoulder? How does that occur?
So I'm using 2 sticks, 2 staffs, and there's a grip between the sticks and the end. So
what are they made of?
Aluminium pole.
Okay, so sticks are made of pole, like aluminium.
So you just imagine like a curtain rail that you put Kevlar on the end, and then you grip it with some tennis racket handles. Okay. Well, not handles, the actual grip from the tennis racket. So I put my grip pretty much, 60 mil from the end of the fire. Yes, it does catch on fire and I have to fix them once a week, but I don't get burnt. The new ones that I bought as a backup, they've got exposed metal, like 100 mil on each side. So as I'm doing tricks like this that I normally do, it's just going
sear
me every time. And as part of that section of the show, this happens 20 times. So every time I'm going, shit, and it just keeps happening and keeps happening. And you've got 250 kids, all because it was predominantly kids based, and their adults come along. And they're all screaming at me and they're all coming up and asking me questions. And all I wanted to do was just go in the green room and just put some aloe vera on it just to relax. But I got through it and it was a success in the end. It was 9 shows, which was extremely challenging. And it's actually moves me on to my next gig, which is coming up in Noosa. I've got to perform for the Iron Man series. On the sand, and they've asked for an extremely long show. So,
for the US listeners, the Iron Man, I assume we're not talking about the Marvel character. But the Iron Man is a competition where a group of athletes will get together and do a series of challenges. Like it could be to the extent of like 10 kilometers of swimming, X amount of kilometers or miles if you have to, of cycling, running. It basically a very large scale marathon that
the fittest people you can ever imagine.
Yeah, like proper.
I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doug's going to be the water boy.
I'm a bit nervous, Doug, to be honest. I'm a bit like, I've got to do a high intensity martial arts show on the sand in the elements.
So are you entertaining crowds that are there or the people that are running by? You're trying to give them a little.
So I believe it's their award ceremony night.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Yeah. So they'll be the
featured entertainment then.
I'm curious, Neal, is there any tips that you have for anyone who does like a very minor burn? Like it might just be from the stove or something like that. I, in the past, have used like mustard and it takes the sting right out of my burns. Do you have any like secret tips for anyone who gets a quick burn from the stove or the oven or a lighter?
Yeah. Aloe vera.
Aloe vera
is the best I've found. Obviously, I get burnt quite a lot. And the fastest way I can manage that burn, the better. Fresh aloe vera plant, cut the stem off, cut down the middle, open it up, and just rub it on. And it seems to be the fastest way to heal because I think it's something to do with the enzymes in the that soaks into the skin and rebuilds the skin faster. The aloe vera plant.
Good to know. And talking about burning yourself and stuff, we have to know. Everyone wants to know. What horror stories have you come across in your 20 years of fire? Now,
too many.
This is not to say this ever happens anymore, guys, by the way, if you book Neal. This is just obviously anything that can go wrong will go wrong at some point when you're learning and coming up, as with all of us.
We haven't got long, but I'll give you the worst ones.
Please, here we go. Strap in, everyone.
So from the start, we started the company in Ibiza in Spain. And then from that, we would try and find somewhere to live in the winter to try and present fire to a new audience. So we decided Tenerife and the Canary Islands would be a good idea. Lots of 5-star hotels. Tried as hard as we could to get into these 5-star hotels, jumped through so many hoops. And our first show was cancelled outside because it was too windy. So they put us downstairs in a basement of like 1,000 people tiered. And we had to do a 45-minute show dancing. That was it. No vocals. There was no audio. There was nothing. And as we were dancing, we have a towel we put all the equipment out on. And as I've walked up on stage, I've watched the guy I was dancing with, Adam, this tiny little bit of spark just came off. And I watched it in slow motion just go and just land on this towel that's full of fuel, right? And the towel's gone and just erupted. Mid-flow, I've just jumped straight off the stage, started putting the towel out, started putting it out, managed to jump back on stage just in time for my cue. and the whole thing it stunk. Like the smoke, the smell that was in this underground stage area was just horrendous. We finished the show and the client was like, "That was amazing. It was so exciting. When do you want to do it next?" Okay. We survived. So that was the first ever problem. A recent one, that video you were showing recently about all that fire breathing, that's actually called the Unicorn Show. The reason why we call it the Unicorn Show, and I think this is important for all of you to have as well, is the Unicorn Show is the most expensive show that is the rich people just want to buy it. They don't care what it is. They just want the most expensive thing. And it doesn't matter if it's that much different to what you're offering. But if you've got like a ballpark unicorn show, someone will go, "Yep, I just want the best." Boom. And that's it. They just buy it. And then you're just like, okay. So when that one gets booked, it's like, cha-ching, everyone's happy. But the last time we did it, we're just coming on to the finale. Yeah. So remember what I said before is all the equipment's been lit up. It's all hot. And then we go back and there was a female Erin that we work with. I watched the video after her equipment was out. So there was no fire on it. She chucked her equipment next to the swords. For some reason, there might have been a bit of spark or titanium powder. That lit the swords up, which in turn lit the dragons up, which in turn lit the staffs up, which in turn, I turned around, everything's on fire. Like everything we have just used is on fire. And this is 2 weeks ago, right? We're in a major event with thousands of people really close. There's a main stage behind us and the banner is starting to like catch up. So I've grabbed the swords with my hands, threw them back, and then I've come in, grabbed everything else and moved it away so it was safe-ish. And then I've said to Bryce and Erin, "You take care of this. I'm going to jump on the mic and defuse the situation." So I've jumped on the mic and started going, "Hey, everyone, as you can see, we've got it fully under control. Remember, kids, you all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's how you put them out and rectify them is the important thing." And everyone's like, "Yay," and everyone's happy at the end. I think you've got to act on these situations without panic.
And then you choreograph, like you put the choreography of this in the show where, oh, isn't it amazing that like every time within 8 minutes into the show, things catch fire and they fix it?
Yeah, next year they're like, "Yeah, can you do that bit again where you light the stage on fire and all your shit goes crazy?"
Yeah. They love that part, don't they? Always. It doesn't happen often.
Maybe that's a new avenue for schools, like fire safety. And part of the show is that it all erupts on fire. It's like, now kids, don't stress, okay?
Hey, Josh, you say that. 2 months ago, I had 71 year 12 students dancing with fire as part of their winter celebration.
Wow.
Okay.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a hard sell, right?
How are they dancing?
I get fire in all the kids' hands, and we turn on some heavy metal, and I'll get thrashy.
Yeah, it wasn't heavy metal, unfortunately. It's more Katy Perry.
You've got school children with flames in their hands?
12-year-old. So for anybody, obviously not in Australia, year 7 is 12 years old. So 71,
I'm sorry. I didn't understand they were 12. That's fine.
Yeah, 71 12-year-old kids playing with fire. It was probably one of the most challenging things I've had to come up with over the last 10 years. But to see the joy on their face when they all completed their choreography, all their parents are watching, all of their peers and school friends are watching, they felt like they could master anything at that point. And
wow.
I said to the headmaster, I was like, give me the mic. And they were like, okay. So they give me the mic. And I was like, look at you all. 8 weeks ago, you were terrified of fire. You were terrified of performing. I said, you've just executed an amazing performance and you're all buzzing. I said, capture that moment because you remember that you can achieve anything. Just capture it. Just remember it. And they're like, yay.
Wow. And 68 of them will go on to just remember that forever.
Yeah.
3 of them will be riding down the street with their football helmets on fire.
Yeah.
Why not, Doug? Why not?
Now you had mentioned I put a bullet point down here, Ibiza and Spain. And that they're quite different places to perform in, I think is what you had mentioned. Do you want to talk about those experiences? Because that's pretty crazy that, for starters, that you travel so much with your art. But what's going on there?
There's a lot of money in Ibiza, so there's a lot of events. There's probably, I would say, the number one capital for rich people to go and have a holidays. There are super yachts everywhere. There are massive clubs, 10,000 people strong, and it's just an amazing place to be. There's just so much going on. It's electrifying, and it's only for 5 months of the year. But it's a really interesting place because you've got a melting pot of cultures. So you've got everybody from all over the world all coming to this island for 5 months to share what they do. And whether that be magic, whether that be fire, whether that be, acrobatics, whether it just be comedy, they're all there. They're all trying to get in and trying to make their name in this place because they know there's so many opportunities around the world that people will see it. Because when we lived there, we used to get flown over to Switzerland or France and, flown over to these places because someone's seen our show. And it was kind of the first time I'd really seen magic on a professional level as well. There was there was a friend of mine. He was called Magic, obviously. He's called Stephen Mills, but everybody called him Magic. And it was the first time I'd seen magic done in clubs and in event spaces. And he did a lot of Rubik's Cube. He did a lot of blindfolded Rubik's Cube, but he did a lot of tricks with cigarettes. Like that was the big one. That kind of wouldn't work these days because nobody wants to see anybody smoking. But yeah, he did a lot of tricks with like fancy shirts and just going like this with the cigarette and putting it out into someone's shirt. And they're like, no. And then nothing happened. Yeah. But it's just a melting pot of entertainment. And it's really inspiring to go there and just see what people are up to around the world.
Damn. We're slacking. What are we doing, Nick? We need to be over there.
Hey, speak for yourself, man. Party towns will be interesting, that seasonal type of work. And you've done this, sounds like you've done it frequently, right?
Yeah, I lived there for 4 years before I came to Australia, and we kind of go back every year or every other year and do a stint for a few weeks, same contacts, and just get as many shows as I can.
What's travel like with your fire equipment? Do you traveling with a lot of weight there?
Don't tell anyone, Doug. It's circus equipment.
And what does that mean? Is it a different shipping weight?
As in when you're traveling, you just tell them it's circus equipment.
Yeah,
you don't
sure.
tell
Okay,
them
so
it's
there's good
fire.
professional advice. First of all, you don't tell them you're a fire person. You tell them you're a circus performer. So that's
Correct.
good news. But
Correct.
What do? You got like some big shipping containers? Does it take much or?
No. So what I do, the equipment comes with me. So I've got a load of equipment that flat packs into a dry bag. So like a waterproof bag, but then the smell doesn't come out.
Is the show pack flat, play big for the most part? You got everything compact?
Yeah. Yeah, most things it's quite interesting. I put everything into a gun case.
Okay.
Never been stopped anywhere around the world.
That's fantastic.
Why have I got a gun case? No one. But if I had a fire stick sticking out of a guitar, or you can't have that on a plane, I'm allowed to shoot people, am I?
Yeah, and most importantly, John is asking, do you play any instruments?
I do. I play guitar. I try.
That's interesting. Nick was in a band. Did you know?
No.
I used to play in a band.
Got one little sip left.
Yeah. Now my partner's in a band. She did an album release on Friday actually, and she's always correcting me in my keys and tones.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, when the last time that we crossed paths was I quickly came to say hi, and you were doing firework for a album debut in a venue, a small, like a pretty tight venue too, and you managed to still do fire for this artist singing at the same time as you dancing with fire.
I love to push the boundaries, Josh. I love intimate spaces. I'm confident in what I do and like my ability to do it. It can be low ceilings, packed with people around me in a small space. And you just do adapt to the space, the surroundings you're in. And I think that's really important, that you can make anything as big as possible or as small as possible, depending on the space that you're in. Stay safe.
Yeah, wow. Hey, we have Nick, are we going to do this review? Do we have time?
Well, I was thinking, I have put the review online on my YouTube channel for you guys to scope out, but I've actually extended an invitation of the creators of the show. And if all goes well, they'll be on next week. So I'd like to talk about it next week if it's cool with you guys. And
that sounds good.
I'll review.
But
yeah,
Buck has booked in, but he booked in for not next week, the week after, I think.
Oh, the week after he did. Dang it.
Yeah,
okay. Well,
yeah.
we'll talk about it good and proper then on the show, because I want it to be a talking point, because it is so good. But if you're interested in scoping it out, it's the Lucky Ladybug. It is an absolutely gorgeous piece of magic. I am getting refills of it already because I did it 20 times and gave it away because I was gifted the product. Watch it on the YouTube channel. It is such a good trick, man. Did
you just drop the spoiler? Mike O'Brien's coming on here. Is that what's happening?
No,
Mike O'Brien?
It is Juice Gala Magic, but not Mike O'Brien. But I think they'll explain that when they come on as well.
Okay, then. Cool.
But Neal, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. It's first time having a fire artist on the show.
What a great chat.
Amazing. And you guys can learn more about Neal in the description below. All his links are there, but you can go straight to his website, Energy Entertainment. Let me make sure I got it right here. energyentertainments.com.au. Or you can find them on the social pipes, which are in the links below. And we're going to leave the final word to Neal. So guys, thanks again for watching the pod. We'll see you again next week, but let's leave our wisdom words with Neal. Here we go.
Remember, life's too short to dance with fat chicks.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.